about the possible implications for the party with the local government elections later this year. Joining me for this now is former DA leader Tony Leon. Tony Leon, good evening to you. Thank you very much for your time. Let's quickly start with your assessment of what's going on in the DA right now.
Well, Colin, of course, I was the leader for a long time, but that was a long time ago. So I'm not involved, happily, in any of this controversy that you're seeing right now. I think there are leadership issues that have come to the fore with Dion George's resignation statement, but I also would say you should treat with caution and circumspection the exit interview of a departing or defecting politician. Obviously, and I'm not making this a personal accusation, it's a generalization, they're always going to find a reason to justify the decision they made. And in respect of Dr. George's, and the allegations are very serious because what he's actually said is he says the party or the leadership has sold out the principles and the purpose of the party in order to accommodate itself with the ANC. The only, without getting into an argument about it, I would make, because I'm not privy to the WhatsApp group of the DA ministers, is did Dion George, while he was a cabinet minister and part of that group, did he actually bring to the fore the issues he raises now? Because I think that would add credibility to his very serious charges against the current leadership of the party. In other words, he says the party sold out on foreign policy, it sold out on BEE. Well, as a matter of fact, he was the only DA minister, when he was a minister, who was a co-chairman of one of the cabinet clusters alongside Ronald Lamola, which dealt with international cooperation. So I don't know, and this is a question, not an answer, whether he and the DA pushed hard for the positions they're now doing in letter form, such as objecting, I think quite correctly, to our alignment with Russia and Iran, which we're seeing this week in Simonstown. Yeah. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, leadership issues are very often not just about personalities, they're about purpose. Who we are, what we stand for, and can the voters tell the difference? And what does concern me somewhat about the current controversy is that I think potentially this is the DA's finest hour. I mean, you've got a majority party, the ANC, not a majority party shorn of its majority. You've got it very awkwardly governing through compromise and coalition. You've got an economy that's anemic. You've got unemployment that's a mountain. And you've got all these opportunities which cry out for an alternative. And if the alternative, which is the DA, is hobbled by an internal seminar or dispute, then I think it's going to lose focus on its primary purpose, which is to convince voters that it is the best alternative.
Well and good for you and I, Tony Leon, to look at this and say, well, you have to be careful about a leader that is resigning in protest and how seriously you can take the allegations he makes. However, the voters, those are the people that you've made reference to twice now.
Yes.
They are the people who are going to decide at the end of it all. How should they see it?
Well, I think the DA needs to get through this quite quickly. And I think, you know, there's a Congress coming up, and presumably if the party's internal democratic health is what it should be, these matters are going to be discussed. There should be a proper debate about the leadership, who's going to lead the party. The incumbent leader's got some strength. If it's a challenger, that person must put out their stall, what they stand for, and they need to set the direction of the party's participation in the GNU, because leaving aside the personality and all the mudslinging, Dion George has basically said in his resignation statement, and as I said, treat it with caution, but it is a viewpoint, is saying that the party cannot be in that GNU unless there's a change of approach to how it participates to advantage its own voters and the principles the party stands for. That's what he said. I'm not saying it's correct or incorrect, but it is a viewpoint. And that viewpoint needs to be debated and resolved, because you don't want to go into a local government election with trying to be everything to everyone and land up being nothing to no one, to mix my cliches if I can. So I think the DA needs to actually get through this in a proper way, and not by brushing things under the carpet, but by having a constructive internal conversation so it can deal better with the external environment, which, as I said, is crying out for a DA that is united, purposeful, and has a clear direction and purpose, not just involved in a personality squabble.
An internal assessment, Tony Leon, I will argue with you that it is not something that will probably be in the best interest of the party, because this has played itself out in public. And therefore, in light of the allegations that have been leveled against John Steenhuisen right now, your assessment of him as a leader of the DA and the manner in which he handles not only party finances, but his own finances. Is it still a leader that can stay in office?
So, Corley, I'm not being evasive, but look, I was, as I said, the leader of the party for 13 years. The one thing I've tried not to do, in respect of all my successors, there have been 3 or 4 of them, is to sit, as it were, from the political, well, I'm not in the political grave, but if you get the idea, and say, he's a bad leader, she's a good leader, you should go from X to Y. So I'm not going to discuss the personalities. I'm just trying to put this out in a proper, purposeful, and I hope a reasonably programmatic way, so that the party actually gets through this in a way that enhances its offer to the voters and doesn't diminish it. And that, to me, is the test. So to answer your question, and I hope correctly, I would say this. Whoever, because John Steenhuisen is up for election or re-election if he chooses to stand as leader, he and anyone else who's going to stand as the leader or leadership candidate needs to say, this is what I offer, this is how I'm going to do it, this is all of my personal and political philosophy, you must back me or you must sack me. And equally, anyone who is going to take up the challenge of leadership needs to advance what the purpose of the party is. And the party, that's what the candidates do. The party, that is the Congress, and I've been through many of them myself, needs to say, I believe that this person is the person who can best take the party forward. And they need to make that determination, and that should be the only consideration, not past entanglements, past loyalties, patronage offers. That needs to be the determination, because then you're acting in good faith on behalf of the voters. Anything else like other than that is I think, a diminution of purpose, in my view.
We're not going to sit and pontificate about John Steenhuisen's personal finances. I know you're probably not going to want to go there, but here is the question. Does the finance issue warrant closer scrutiny, whether be it at party level or indeed how he handles his own finances as a person?
Well, look, any leader, and here I can't speak because I was in that position. I mean, I was once in the situation when I got married at the beginning of my leadership of the DA, and, you know, there was a big fight about my wedding gifts had to be disclosed in the parliamentary register, and I thought it was a bit invasive of some of my wedding guests, but I had to go and discuss the matter with the Speaker of Parliament. So the leader, whoever the leader is of any organization, is subject to public scrutiny, not just party scrutiny. So yes, the answer is in general, yes, leaders are made accountable. And I don't know, because I haven't seen, and really not saying that much preoccupies me, the inner workings of what the DA's legal commission found about the credit card, what was said. Dion George has made some very serious allegations that there was a cover-up. That's what he said today. I, again, go back to what I said, treat with caution and circumspection, the words of a departing politician when he's exiting an organization. But that being said, I assume the party or its federal executive will answer that allegation and say, actually, it's not what Dr. George says, this is it. And he was inaccurately misleading the public in order to make a point. But I don't have that information, Paulie. I don't actually want to have it. I'm just saying that leaders, and here I speak, having been one myself for 13 years with the same organization, are subject to public and party scrutiny.
All right. Finally, then, very briefly, if you can, how damaging is this in a local government election?
Well, if it's left unresolved, or if the party just carries on, you know, having bad headlines, you know, week after week or day after day, very damaging. If the party draws a line under this, and I'm not going to prescribe to them how to do it, there's certain obvious options, then I don't think it will, because look, a lot of what we get preoccupied by, and you're a leading newscaster, and I'm a commentator, a detribalized political leader, it doesn't always impact through to the wider public. I think the public's deeply concerned about, jobs, economic opportunities, crime. But the more time you spend in an internal wrangle, the less time you've got to deal with the concerns and the cares of the voter. So without ducking the question, it all depends.
Tony Leon, thank you very much for your time. Former DA leader giving us his sense of the goings-on in the Democratic Alliance, but also importantly, the public image that is possibly suffering.